This episode of the Flush 'em and Dust 'em podcast is brought to you by our sponsors and the hunters who have become patrons. One thing we believe in is keeping our dogs safe while hunting, training, or traveling from one location to another. To help keep our dogs safe in the field, we carry a first aid kit from Gundog Outdoors on our vest in the event our dogs would obtain an injury while hunting. We also carry their water bottle to keep our dogs hydrated, to help them perform in the field and during training sessions. To check out these products and other safety gear, head over to Gundog Outdoors at gundogoutdoors.com and use code RINGNECKS to save 10%. As we all know, accidents can happen at any time, and that is why we use Dakota 283 kennels to transport our dogs to the hunting and training fields or to wherever our everyday travels take us. These kennels provide the ultimate protection to our dog as they are constructed of military-grade materials developed and tested in the harshest environments. The door into the kennel has a keyed paddle latching handle on it for a peace of mind if we stop to grab a bite to eat and maybe have a cold one with our friends after a good hunt or training session. With a conveniently located handle on the top of the kennel, it makes this kennel easy to lift in and out of our trucks and SUVs. You owe it to your dog to give them the protection these kennels provide. Dakota 283 also provides other specialized gear to ensure our dogs have enough water and food for a full day's hunt and to safely store and secure our gear in our vehicles. So, head over to dakota283.com and use code RNR10, that is RNR10, at checkout to save 10%. But, and there's always a but, if you want to receive a larger discount on the Dakota 283 products as well as other products to help you enjoy your days in the field and help your dog perform to the best of its ability, become a patron alongside other hunters from around the nation to be rewarded with these discounts and also be entered into special giveaways. Just starting at $5 a month, head over to Patreon, patreon.com and search Ringnecks and Retrievers to find us. This is also linked in the episode description and on our Instagram page. To learn how we use these products in more detail, head over to our Instagram page at Ringnecks and Retrievers. These sponsors and the hunters that have become patrons is what helps us continue bringing Flush 'em and Dust 'em episodes to you weekly and provide you with awesome discounts for you and your dogs.
Hi, hunters. Thank you for tuning into the Flush 'em and Dust 'em podcast brought to you by Nick and Tyler, the boys from Ringnecks and Retrievers. In this podcast, we will talk about guns, dogs, gear, and our successes and failures in the field through our combined 40 years of experience. We speak with hunters just like you from across the nation about their days in the field and the many memories they built with their friends and family. We are excited to have you listen. Now let's get to Flushing and Dusting.
Hunters, welcome back to another episode of the Flush 'em and Dust 'em podcast. We're excited to have y'all come back and check it out. By the time you guys hear this, it's going to be, the beginning of February. So here in Iowa, all the upland hunting seasons are closed. We still got quail happening right now, but that closes on the 31st, and we're sitting here enjoying a nice snowstorm. So hopefully we don't get too much snow. Nick, I think you're supposed to be in the worst of it from where we are, but so that's kind of what we're up to. We do have a special guest on tonight. We got Edgar. He is also known on Instagram as Hunt Birdz. That's Birdz, not with an S. So, Edgar, we appreciate you hopping on with us tonight. If anybody knows you, he has wrote some articles for Project Upland magazine, some very good articles. So if you have a chance to check out Project Upland magazine, definitely head on over there and read some of his articles. But Edgar, if you could introduce yourself, why you got into bird hunting, and what's your passion?
All right. Well, first off, I want to say to both of you guys, I appreciate the invite and thank you very much for having me a guest on your podcast. When you guys reached out, I'm always surprised to hear from people. I don't know if I tell an interesting story or have an interesting background, but I'm always willing to share what little I do know. But thank you for having me on here. So hopefully the listeners will get what what they tune in for. So just to start off a little bit, my name's Edgar Castillo. I was born in Central America, came to the United States as a young boy, Basically, my father was not a hunter. He hunted a little bit in Central America, in the country of Guatemala, but it wasn't per se what we know here in the U.S.
And now, did they have birds down there like we do, or was it a different type of bird that we don't?
They have some a type of bobwhite quail, kind of, if you've heard of the masked bobwhite quail of Mexico, kind of like that. They have some quail. They have the turkey, the one that everyone, it's the one that's always on the end of the bucket list for all the turkey hunters. The one, it's a jungle type turkey.
Okay.
So we have those.
Jungle turkey.
We have a type of pheasant. They have it in southern Texas and Mexico called the chachalaca. So a type of pheasant bird, but there's really not a upland hunting culture there. It's anyone that hunts, it's for sustainability, for food, to survive, the indigenous people.
Yep.
So when we came up here, we settled here in Kansas City metro area. Our neighbor, Tom, was working in his garage. My dad walked over and asked him what he was doing. Tom pretty much told him, I'm going to go duck hunting here in a couple of days. And he asked my dad if he wanted to tag along. And then a week later, my dad was duck hunting. And that's pretty much how it started off. He became very enthralled in it. He loved it. And then I started tagging along. And from there, my passion grew. I think as all young teenage boys, girls, cars, and friends kind of came into the picture in a different order, those things became important. So I just kind of backed off on the hunting.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah. So I came back from my first deployment from the Marine Corps, and my dad wanted to go bird hunting, and we went. And at that moment, when my dad and I went out just by ourselves, when we came back from our trip, it hit me hard, and it's been like that ever since. And we've hunted public land, and I just hunt as much as I can, really.
And what was that bird that, when you came back from the Marine Corps, that you hunted that you hooked?
Pheasant and quail.
Nice. Nice. So what's your favorite bird to hunt right now?
My favorite bird?
Yeah.
A year ago, I would have told you prairie chicken and scale quail, because we do have scale quail here in Kansas in the southwest corner. But a invite through someone I met on Instagram, Dave Mayers in southern Missouri, invited me to come down and hunt woodcock. And after I hunted woodcock in southern Missouri, that is now my favorite bird. And I hunted it again this year, and it reevaluated. It is now my favorite bird.
Why is that? What draws you to that bird? Is it hard to hunt? Is it fly so fast it's tough to hit? Because if that's the case, then I'm not taking Tyler with me when I try to go after these.
It's actually a very. I'm gonna get probably a lot of slack from the northern upland bird hunters. I mean, the terrain, the habitat can be rough and nasty and gritty. You're busting through brambles and thorns and trees, and but it's a very slow pace. You can talk, kind of like dove hunting. Very social affair. There's not really a hurry. You're just letting the dogs do what they're supposed to be doing. Obviously, you're looking for a certain type of habitat, but the dog would go on point. We would just kind of meander our way into the thick vegetation, and the woodcock would flush. If you missed or you didn't get a shot, it would settle back down close enough where you could work it back up. And if you weren't going that direction, you could always circle back around and say, hey, we can come back and hunt it up. But it was just a different type of hunting, and it's the bird is very easily knocked down, so it doesn't take a whole lot. I don't know. as soon as my first flush, I was hooked. And this year just reaffirmed that it's my favorite bird. Now it may change next year if I go and hunt a different bird. So
Yeah.
Now, do woodcocks sit in, I guess, would you call it a covey, or they in flocks, or they partner up, or is it usually just one bird? I guess I don't know. I've never hunted woodcock, so I don't know.
Usually it's just one. We did have a couple where we had like 2 or 3 flush simultaneously, but I don't think per se they were in a covey. 95%, 98% of the time they were just singles. So
okay.
That's crazy. I've never. I don't even know if I've seen a woodcock here in Iowa, like where we've walked. I don't know if we don't have the right terrain, the right cover. I mean, is it like a woody thicket that something?
Kind of boggy, damp, wet ground. They're called the birds of the shadows. They
Okay.
I heard they're a bird of chance. If you're hunting bobwhite quail, it's not uncommon for quail hunters to bump woodcock. I was told that Iowa has a very good migration. You just got to know where they're at, and you got to catch it at the exact spot.
Yeah.
I never knew that they were in Missouri until last year. So I mean, we were moving a lot of birds.
Yeah.
Sounds like we just don't know the right habitat, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big part of it.
Yeah, I would definitely check into that if you can.
So would they be considered a waterfowl bird or an upland since they migrate?
An upland bird, but they fall under the migratory bird. You have to have a hip stamp.
Okay.
To hunt them. So like a dove.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really went after them. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would have just shot one if I would have saw it. It's good to know.
yeah, want to have a stamp for it.
I mean, do you know what a snipe looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like a snipe, a little bit bigger, a little plumpier, with a long beak, about the size of a quail, but with a long beak.
Yeah.
And I didn't know they were here in Kansas, but since hunting with Dave Mayers, I've discovered that they are here in Kansas in the southeast portion, which would align with the southern Missouri area where I hunted. But I've talked to several other bird hunters saying they come through, you just got to catch the right migration, and it could be really good hunting. So it's good to know, because for people like, us in the Midwest, you really don't have to venture up to the North Woods, to chase woodcock. Sometimes it can be in our own backyards, really.
Yeah. Huh. So you, down in Kansas, do you hunt all public ground, or do you kind of have some private ground, or is it?
I hunt all public ground.
Is it pretty plentiful down in Kansas, or is there certain parts of the state that you really have to go to find public ground?
Well, Kansas has about 300,000 to 400,000 public lands.
Oh,
when I say public lands, I'm talking about WMAs, wildlife management areas, owned and operated by the state. On top of that, we have 1.2 million acres of walk-in hunting areas, which is private land opened up to the public for public access. So you're looking at
a million and a half,
2 million. And that doesn't include the federal lands. We've got a couple of federal refuges that are open for hunting. So, I mean, you're looking maybe 2 million, but it's spread out throughout the state, where I think anyone would be able to reach or find an area relatively easy.
Yeah.
If you knew where you were looking for. So
by the time our listeners hear this episode, you will have gone. I think I saw today that you're heading to the Cimarron grasslands. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know.
Yeah.
What part of the state is that in?
The very southwest corner.
Southwest.
It would be, actually, we're going to go to a spot where you could stand in 3 different states. You'd stand in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
and it's federal. It's 108,000 acres.
So do you have a license for each of those states then, or?
We're gonna be in Kansas. We're gonna be in Kansas, but there is a location where you can go and stand and take
That's
a
pretty
picture
cool.
and. But
So you guys
it's a big area.
chasing quail down there then, or
That's where the scale quail, bob white, and they do have the occasional rooster.
Nice.
They do have the lesser prairie chickens, but you can't hunt those because those are on the endangered protected.
Oh yeah. So how many? So 100. You said 108,000 acres is what it's about.
Of the area, but that doesn't include the 40,000 of the walk-in that's checkerboarded within the area or in and around the area. So you're looking at a large piece of land.
So
Yeah,
how many days are you going down there for?
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
How many? So in those 3 days, how many miles do you think you're gonna walk?
Oh, I'd say easily 10 to 11 plus.
Man, do you spend basically all day?
Oh yeah, we hunt from sun up to sundown.
Man,
nice.
that
And
is-
you got a dog, Edgar?
I do not have a dog.
You do not have a dog. Okay.
I do not have a dog.
So are you going to be taking pictures of this trip and
Yep.
posting them?
Yep.
And then kind of switching gears a little bit here. You write articles for Project Upland. Where's your inspiration come from? Like we've seen, you come out with a lot of articles. Where do you come up with your ideas? And then do you go out and like test your ideas and see some of these things that you're doing? And I guess just from kind of browsing at your articles and seeing some of them, just curious about how that comes about.
Most of them are derived from what my dad taught me, what my father showed me in the field.
that's cool.
A lot of it also comes just from me out bird hunting, and things pop into my head and say, hey, if I was a brand new bird hunter, or I would find this interesting. To give you an example, I wrote an article on using a pheasant call. My dad talked about it when I was young. We purchased one. We would use it occasionally. We would call. Did the roosters respond back specifically to our call? I don't know. Did it work? And did it allow us to work certain fields where we had received feedback from the roosters? Yes. Was it because of the call, or were they just crowing because it was early in the morning or late evening? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But stuff like that makes I start thinking about things like that. And, it seems to be an interesting topic. So a lot of my topics are just stuff that I was taught, from my dad.
Nice. And so do you still use a rooster call?
I'm going to in summer because that was the last time I used it. But I take it with me, and I'll use it. I'll blow it in the morning and in the evening to see if I get a response. If I hear some crowing, and then at least helps me. Okay, there's a couple roosters, or at least there's a rooster in this field, and then we'll go and hunt it. But no, it's not like a quail call or a duck call. You're not going to call it, and you're going to have 2 or 3 roosters come running into your pocket.
Yeah, they fly right to you. Oh, hey!
That would make those things a lot easier for us. So,
Yeah. Do you have an article that you've wrote that you can think of that is kind of your favorite article, that if you're going to tell someone to go look at one of your articles, which one would you, if you can think of one off the top of your head?
I would
all of
say,
them, right? All of them is the correct answer, right?
I would say there's one that I wrote at the very beginning about public lands, the misconception of hunting public lands. For me, I hunt with a small group. There's 4 or 5 of us, and we come across a lot of people that don't really favor public lands, or public lands get a bad rap, as far as not very good habitat, too much traffic. And I don't believe that. I think, and just like everything else, you got to put boots on the ground. You got to do your background checks. You got to scout. And we have found that a lot of these areas that people are bypassing are just very productive bird areas. So that article that I wrote was because someone drove by, asked what we were doing, and we said we were bird hunting. He said, well, I haven't seen a bird here in like years. And he drove down the road, and we ended up shooting a lot of quail and a lot of pheasants on a track that he specifically said it was no good. And it was a farmer. It wasn't like it was someone who was trying to steer us away from it, but that when we got back, I always jot down some notes, and I wrote that article, and it got a lot of positive feedback. So a lot of these places that people bypass just because they don't look productive doesn't mean that they're not. So I would say probably that one.
I would piggyback off that. Like, Tyler and I hunt a lot of public land too. We've gotten a few more private ground spots recently this past year, but mainly Iowa, we've hunted all public land. Super satisfying. We've gotten limits. It can be tough. You're gonna, like you said, boots on the ground. You gotta walk sometimes a lot. I know one day this year on public land, we walked about 10 miles, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
We just kept trucking all day long. I think we had a pretty good day too, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, I 100% agree. I don't think it gets the justice it should, because sometimes in some respects it's more fulfilling because
I agree.
you worked so hard for this bird that could have had pressure all over spot. I actually just shot a bird public land this year, and it was about a 100-acre field, and two other guys ended up joining me in this field. And I'm like, oh my God. And birds, you could see birds were getting up. Well, my dog and I, we kind of worked around the back. I don't know if they chased it that way, but I'll be damned if we didn't get a rooster off that public ground, and I don't think they got anything. Because I was in there, I didn't hear him shoot at all. So,
and I think that's, we've talked about it on other podcasts too, is you gotta look for the land that really the people aren't. There's some pieces of land that they're easy access off the road. They're, easy to walk. Maybe smaller tracts of land that people just get hammered all the time. And like you said, you got to kind of put in a little bit of homework, do a little background investigation stuff, and figure out, people probably aren't walking this, or maybe learn to walk it different, and just really actually put in the time, because that's what it takes to be successful on public ground. And it is fun when you get a bird off a piece out there, because a lot of times you have extra flighty birds, or like Nick was saying, how many people walk that and didn't get a bird, and
Right.
You were successful in your tactics that you took to the field.
I was talking with a gentleman last week, it was, and he's got a pretty big, owns quite a lot of private ground of his own. Said that there is, not a day that goes by that he couldn't just go drive down his lane to his farm and see, 100 birds or whatever the case may be. I was talking about inviting him back to Iowa next year for a hunt, and said we got some good private ground that we'd invite him on, and he said, honestly, I'd rather hunt the public grounds in Iowa, just because I know what it's like to walk on my private ground and see all these birds. He's like, let's get a challenge out of it. So having that conversation, it just really kind of turns it, and you can see this perspective of it, and it's kind of nice to know, like, for us folk that don't own ground or out there, it's a privilege as well.
Yeah, I agree. I find it more satisfying. I just like the notion of not knowing what you're going to get into. I mean, personally, I can walk all day long. I mean, seeing birds is great, but if I don't see any, or if I don't get any, I can come home at the end of the day. My wife will ask me, "Do you have a good hunt?" I could say, "Yes, I did."
Yeah.
Feeling the heft of a couple of birds in my bird vest is always a bonus. But I've gone out and discovered new areas to hunt. Just because it doesn't produce birds doesn't mean that there's not going to be birds there at different types of times of the day. They can be using for different things. But we've discovered so many places that look birdie, and other people said, "Oh yeah, well I'll never come back to that because it's been 2 times we've been there and no birds found." Well, a week ago, I was out hunting out west, and we found some really good spots that are very prairie chicken country, and definitely, I dropped a pin on those that I'm going to come back in the early season. I think those would be it had everything that they needed, and I wouldn't dismiss it just because I didn't see any birds. But I like the exploration part of it, the discovery of new places. And the more places I mark on my map, that's better for me.
I think that's something that Tyler and I learned this year. You said discovery of new places. For the past couple of years, Tyler and I, we find quote unquote hot spots or good spots. And then every year you think you need to go back there. Well, this year we didn't actually do that. This year, I only went back and hunted one of those spots once, never went back, and kept moving on. We found some nice new spots that we're pretty happy with. So it's kind of neat to start doing that. I think it's just the natural flow or the natural drift. You find something, you like it, so you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And this year we actually talked with Fetching Feathers, and it was right before season, and he actually kind of inspired us. All right, we need to get out there. We need to do a little bit more research. We need to do a little more scouting. We definitely need to try more places. And that's helped us in our upland hunts and our game, and actually learning more about hunting and how to approach fields so much better than I could have ever thought it would.
Yeah, we make it a point, our group. The good thing about our group is if I can't make it out, if there's 2 or 3 of us can't make it out, 1 or 2 other guys will jump in, and we make it a point that whoever goes out at least finds and works and hunts a handful of new places. Excuse me. And so we have that going for us. I mean, it doesn't matter where we go. If we go to a certain area of the state that we've hunted before, we may hit those hot spots, like you said, but we always will make it a point to venture off a little bit farther away to look for more possible hot spots. And we're really good about that. In fact, opening day, that is a day that 3 of us, when everyone else is, going to their hot spots or their places that they were told to go, to go hunt, we go and just look for new places for the rest of the season. And a lot of it is just driving around. We utilize a lot of binoculars. We use binos quite a bit when we're out scouting.
And the nice thing about, and we've kind of touched on this, about going to these new places is your chance to run into a new species of upland bird is a lot higher than if you just continue to go to a spot where you've had success with, let's say, getting a rooster or just getting a bobwhite quail. Scouting these new areas, head into different parts of different states, that's where you're going to get all these different upland species. And it's crazy to think, when Nick and I started this, obviously we grew up in Iowa, so the main things we know are roosters and quail, but we start talking, talk to Fetching Feathers, now talking to you and talking about squaled quail and all these different types of, sorry.
Did you just make up a new species there, Tyler?
But, just like the amount of birds that you can actually chase out there and where those birds will take you, like, just what you'll see in nature and the different views that you'll come across and the different people you'll meet and the parts of different states that you're going to have to touch. It, you can really make an adventure out of the
Yeah.
upland game. And
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's so diverse, so eclectic. I mean, you not chase birds in the mountains, in the desert, in the north woods, in the southern states. You've got Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska. It's got a diverse habitat and landscape. It's just there's so much out there, so much diversity that you could chase and hunt, and it gives you if someone that craves something different all the time, bird hunting's perfect.
Have you, and I don't remember what species this is, but Nebraska has like the Upland Grand Slam or
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know exactly the verbiage of that, or the birds. I think it's quail, pheasant, partridge, and I don't know what the other bird is. I think it's 5 species.
It's pheasant, bobwhite, prairie chicken, sharptail.
That's what it is.
I think, yeah, that's it.
Have you done that?
In Nebraska?
Yeah. Have you been
No.
up there to try that?
I've hunted Nebraska. I've shot a rooster and I've shot quail. I've gotten into prairie chickens up in Nebraska, but I've not hunted the Grand Slam or the Upland Slam in Nebraska.
Yes. This year we're gonna head South Dakota. We're heading farther west, hoping to get into some Sharpies. It'll be our first time, so we're planning accordingly. Obviously, there's got to be a
Right.
day of scouting for us and figuring out the different types of habitat. But that's what's gonna make it fun out there, just to try something new. Hell, I don't even know if my dog's gonna know what the hell it is.
yeah, probably like, what is that fluffy thing out there? I'm sure they got a similar scent, but
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I've hunted South Dakota. It's just mainly been for pheasants. It was several years ago, but our group we've actually discussed about going to North Dakota because we believe we want to get into. I'll shoot a pheasant in Iowa or South Dakota or Nebraska. It doesn't matter to me. It is cool to hunt the same bird in different states, but if you can get into a different type of bird, that's even better. I'm kind of like with you.
Yep.
But North Dakota seems more that we can get into pheasants, sharptails, and we want to get into some hunts. And that's where I talked to a couple people from Iowa about going up to Iowa and chasing hunts because I keep on hearing people are shooting them.
We shot one this year.
And it'd be cool to go to Iowa and say I shot a hunt.
Yeah, we got up and somebody yelled quail, and I was like, "Well, I ain't no fucking quail." So I didn't shoot right. I was like, "What the hell is that?" But I could hear it making its
whistles.
noise. Yeah, making its noise, and I was like, and then Josh, who was to my right, he shot, and then I shot. We ended up getting it. I think off those 2 shots.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was. At first, I was like, I watched it fly by. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, we ended up shooting it, and that was that was my first ever experience with a Hun. So it was pretty
fast.
cool.
Are they
It
fast?
was fast. It was very
That's
fast.
what I heard.
And they so we had a guy after we hit that one, we posted on Instagram about getting it, and there's a guy that lives up, so it'd be north of Cedar Rapids, about an hour and a half from me, Blackhawk County area,
Waterloo
area. Yep. That contacted us, and he actually went out, and I think him and a couple buddies went out, and they got 5 or 6 of them in one day, the same day that we got ours. So they're definitely around, but I think you got to know the right area, like you said, to get on them. And I think obviously up there must be pretty decent, that they're coming back. But how many species have you got on down there this year in Kansas?
I've shot pheasant, obviously, bobwhite quail. I've shot quite a few prairie chickens, snipe, and then my goal is for this season before it ends is to get another scale quail. I've shot scale quail before in Kansas. It's just been a while, and this upcoming season, my goal is to get a Kansas woodcock.
Nice.
So as far as Kansas is concerned, I've shot all of them except for the Kansas woodcock, but I've shot them all.
Is there a difference between the Missouri and the Kansas, or is just you haven't shot one in Kansas?
Yeah, I want to shoot a woodcock in Kansas.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Goal is.
Huh. Yeah, that's one thing that's cool about. I think Iowa has a decent diversity of birds. I mean, we got for upland this year, we got pheasant, quail, and a partridge. We have also, if anybody's into waterfowl, that we got a decent migratory track. So
Yep.
I think for our crew, the ringneck and retriever crew, we were able to bag 8 different types of birds this year. So we had,
That's good.
for waterfowl, we had geese, mallard, wood duck, and then for upland, we had dove, Hungarian partridge, quail, pheasant, and then missing one, but I don't remember what the teal for the other waterfowl one. So I mean, it's pretty cool. You don't have to travel too far to get into a lot of different types of birds, but I think it'd be fun getting into a Sharpie or something of that nature. I think those would be a fun bird.
I've heard that Iowa, the northeast corner, very small numbers, but there are rough grouse. I've done a little bit of research, and it's the same area where they have like really good fly fishing and trout streams.
Yep,
in
that would
like
Decorah area. And,
yep. I haven't heard that about the grouse up there, but I mean,
I know
it's not to say there's not anything up there.
Yeah, I know my grandpa has talked about it when he was, younger, getting into a good number of them. But I got a couple of friends that live up by like the Decorah area, which is where the Upper Iowa River is, and some good trout. There's some really good trout fishing up there, but and they pheasant hunt, so I don't know if they've ever run into any of them or not. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool to run into one.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably been a good 5 years where I heard stories about that, and it's exactly how I started. Someone had whispered in my ear about scale quail in southwest Kansas, and I'd never heard about it. I asked my father; he had never heard about them. Almost everyone I talked to had never heard that they're other than bobwhite quail in Kansas. And I researched literally for a year. I called the ranger down there, and he said, "By gosh, we have blue quail. They're hard to hunt, but they're down here." And then ever since then, and that led me to writing that couple articles on scale quail in Kansas. But I'm talking, that's what's so cool about it is, sometimes you got to. If I was up in Iowa, I'd be all over
looking for
trying to find some rough grouse up in the northeast. Of course, I'd probably find someone, and what are you doing up here? I'm chasing rough grouse. Well, there's
none up here.
but stories like that intrigue me, and that causes me to
dig farther.
I would go up there.
What?
Even if I didn't get anything.
How did it come about that you decided or got asked or whatever the process is to write for Project Upland?
It was just by accident.
Good accident.
I've written for 25 plus years because of work. Obviously, it's a different style and different form of writing. Because I quickly learned that my wife is a journalism major, and she used to write for newspaper magazines. And
nice.
When I was asked to write an article, she looked at it and she basically said, I'm not writing an investigation type of report, and so I had to change my style of writing. But I had posted some photos, and someone from Project Upland, AJ, had asked me, "Hey, do you mind sharing some of your thoughts and some of your knowledge?" And I said yes. I told him, "Hey, I don't I don't have any background in writing, not educated in as far as writing, and they just kind of opened the door. And I just kind of used my experiences and my upbringing with my dad, and just from there, I guess people have liked what I've written. I mean, I've written quite a few for them, and from there I've written for Quail Forever and Pheasants Forever, a couple European journals, and a couple other magazines, I guess, if you want to call. I got some stuff coming out for Rough Grouse Society here in the spring. I've really enjoyed it because when the season ends, I'm still writing about it and reliving it. And I've also met a lot of new people that are interested in writing, and I'm trying to help them get started, because I wish I would have known someone that would have been able to help me when I first started, because I had a lot of questions and I just researched everything on my own and just taking it from there, really.
How long have you been writing for Project Upland?
3 years.
3 years. I've always...
Go ahead, Tyler.
No,
Nope,
you go ahead. You know what?
I was going to say...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the power of Instagram. So I am, and everybody that listens knows I am not an online guy. I'd much rather just be out in the field doing my thing, talking with people. But Instagram, social media, whatever you want to use, it opens new worlds to you. And I didn't realize how that worked until Tyler and I started doing this, and now we get to meet you, Edgar, and
Right.
use you on our platform, and vice versa. It's pretty fascinating. I think the upland world is starting to grow, which is exactly what we want, and I think people are appreciative of people like you. And Tyler and I for trying to bring that type of information to the public about conservation, about helping, about different areas of hunting, different types of birds. So it's pretty cool. So just piggybacking off what you said, I think it's fascinating, and it's kind of dumb luck, and you kind of fall into it, and it's like, oh man, I love doing this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm very private, but as I told Tyler, I got into the Instagram because of my daughters. We wanted to know what they were doing, and
don't blame me there.
they're the ones that came up with the name. They're the ones that told me, hey, you need to check this out about upland bird hunting, and it kind of grew from there. And I had told Tyler that my oldest told me, if you're going to do this, do something different. Don't be like everyone else. And
Yep.
I took that to heart, and that came with the photos. And I just started, putting down words of my experiences. And then I think that's what probably caught the eye of AJ and other people that have asked me to write and said, hey, would you mind writing, a couple things for us? And it just, like I said, it's grown. And I met so many people through social media. I mean, people now that have become very close friends. I'm heading to Arizona next week with a fellow Marine. My buddy and I were, a year ago, we were going to go to Arizona, and I shot something out, not per se looking for a particular spot, but just information on like how to hunt Gambel's quail, because I'd done some reading, but it's always good to get firsthand knowledge.
Yep.
And by the time Hutch and I landed on the there in Phoenix, we had like 12 invites saying, hey, let's meet up for dinner, and if you guys want to go and hunt. We ended up going with Spencer, because he was a Marine, I was a Marine, so we had that connection. And I mean, he took a weekend off to take us around, and now we're we text and email and call and talk to each other almost weekly, and I'm staying with him, and it's just people like that,
Yep.
with you guys now, meeting you guys, and it'd be great if you guys ever come down to Kansas, let me know. I'd love to take you guys out and share a field with you guys. But it's just the interaction, and plus the upland community has been, my my point, it's just they're very open as to
Yes.
sharing information. That's what
Yep.
I've come
I
across.
mean, I would agree. I mean, I think Tyler and I want everybody to be successful. You get a first-time hunter out there, and all they do is walk for 6-7 hours in a day. That might be the worst thing if they don't see a bird and they're like, "All right, I'm not doing this ever again." So we want to help people get successful, be successful, find spots. That's what it's all about. I love it. I think Tyler loves it too.
It's amazing, just the quality of people that we've from doing this podcast, and we put ourselves out there as obviously we don't know everything, and that's what this podcast is for. Is one, we gain knowledge off it because we get to talk with guys like you, guys like Fetching Feathers, just all these people that have had multiple different experiences, and you get to bring that to the forefront. And I don't know, I think it's just so much fun meeting high quality individuals that share a passion for the uplands, and they, like, you want people to be successful in the out in the public lands and have successful hunts, and I think it's pretty awesome. So what's give us a story of one of your favorite hunts that you've had.
Man,
There's probably too many to think of.
Oh, I would say favorite hunts. At the top of my head, I would say the Arizona one, and the reason is because it was not what I was expecting. Like I said, Hutch and I did our research to go to Arizona last year. We watched YouTube channels. We read articles. I envisioned hunting desert quail in the desert. So to me, that encompasses somewhat rolling hills interspersed with cactuses and a lot of thorn, right? I mean,
it does. It does.
Rattlesnakes, I don't know.
Hutch and I landed in Phoenix. We were hunting within 2 hours. And we met Spencer, and he said he's going to take us out. Well, the next day we drove, and I remember looking at Hutch saying, man, this does not look like what we've been watching videos. So basically we were in the mountains, and I'm in pretty good shape. I'm 50 years old, especially for the assignments that I had for working. I'm in pretty good shape, and that hunting kicked my butt. And we were shooting, we were laughing so much. I mean, dogs were going on point literally on a mountainside, and I'm holding on with leather gloves, trying not to grab something that stick me or poke me, holding my shotgun, trying to get off a shot, and then being careful not sliding down. And we were just, it was a good time. We shot birds, but we did a lot of laughing, and when we would get to certain areas, we'd look at each other and say, man, this is tough, but it was memorable. This time is not going to be like that. That's what Spencer told me. He said, we're going to be hunting the typical desert, not the mountains, but it was, it was sketchy. Some places where I had to grab onto things and make sure my footing wasn't going to take me down to the bottom of a ravine or a wash.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So if someone tells you they're going to take you go hunt desert quail in the desert, that could mean several things. So but it's fun.
That's awesome. So, well, Edgar, we usually try to keep them a little bit under an hour, so we definitely appreciate you coming on,
Yes.
talking about your writing, talking about what got you into bird hunting. Obviously, your great upbringing from your father. It's pretty cool. But
We
Nick and
appreciate
I,
your service and
Yep.
all that as well. So thank you very much
Thanks.
for that.
yep,
And
we look
we will
forward.
grab a hunt.
Yeah, and we look forward to reading some of your articles and Project Upland, and obviously continue following you on Instagram. Thank your daughters for that. So, but
I appreciate it, and I do. I thank you guys immensely for having me as a guest. And like I told you, Tyler, you know, I don't like talking a lot about myself, but hopefully you guys got what you're looking for. But
yeah, definitely.
on a side note, if you guys, like I said, if you guys were ever have an idea of coming down here to Kansas, and if I can't meet up with you, I don't see why I wouldn't be able to now that I'm retired, but unless I'm out hunting farther west. But yeah, you guys let me know, and I'll put something together, and we can meet up, and I'd love to take you guys out, show you. I may blindfold you if we go to certain spots. But
It's all right. It's all right.
but yeah, just let me know, and just think of it as a open invitation. And we've got the accommodations. We can take care of everything, and just let me know when you guys will want to come down, and we'll make it happen.
Awesome.
Same here. If you ever want to get to Iowa, let us know. It'd be an experience to try to go northeast Iowa and try to get some of those grouse. Haven't done it, so it'd be an adventure for all of us.
Yep.
Plus,
Now,
my parents live up that way, so it's pretty easy to go up there for me.
I will hold you to that, because I'm that person that you're going to get an email or a text from me, and say, I'm being serious about coming
That's
out.
fine. Let's do it. Let's do
We'll
it.
do some research.
I like it.
Get some spots figured out. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Edgar, have a good night. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it
much.
again.
Hopefully you get some snow.
Yeah.
I'll send some.
Hopefully
I'll
some of
send
that
some.
comes down.
Yeah, I'll send a truckload down.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me on.